According to U.S. Lacrosse, this is the 12th straight year lacrosse has seen a net increase of at least 20,000 players signing up each year. That means 20,000 players or more have been signing up to start playing lacrosse for 12 years in a row. Lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in the United States right now, and if you don't agree with me, you will by the end of my speech. I played lacrosse for 9 years and still like to play now. I also worked for a lacrosse store, Universal Lacrosse, over the summer, so I know a good amount of lacrosse. In this speech, I will go over the history of lacrosse, how to play lacrosse, and finally, the growth and why lacrosse is becoming so popular. Lacrosse is actually a very special sport. It was the first team sport ever created and played. From what we know, lacrosse was started in the early 17th century, which is around the 1600s, and was first played by the Eastern Woodland Native Americans and Plains Indians tribes in what is now Canada. Off by a ball being tossed into the air, and the two teams would start on opposite ends and run to get the ball. After a team gets the ball, they would pass the ball to each other to try and score. Dodging and juking were seen as a cowardly move. Those rules seem kind of easy, but when the Native Americans played with 100 to 1,000 members on a team, and the field ranged from 500 yards to 6 miles, I can see why it was so hard. Because the games were sometimes so hard to finish and score on, they would sometimes last a couple of days since they could not see at night. Both teams would meet the day before to discuss all of the rules, like how many players per tribe, how long the field would be, and some general rules. There tended to be no out of bounds, and the ball could not touch your hands. The sticks were made out of wood, and the balls deer hair. The goal was at first just a tree or rock or just a landmark on the field. Lacrosse was first played to settle disputes between tribes, and because of that, it was basically like going to war in their heads. The pregame rituals were almost as important as the game itself. Players would paint their bodies in sticks just like how players today use eye black and all that. They would also have a shaman give a spiritual and strategic pep talk before the games. Lacrosse has evolved and changed drastically since then, and now I'm going to talk about how lacrosse is played now. Lacrosse is now looked at as a fun sport to play, where you play against your town rivals or other summer teams that are trying to get recruited. Teams consist of 10 players on a 110 by 60-yard field for each team. There's one goalie, 3 defensemen, 3 midfielders, and 3 attackmen per team. The goalie stays in the net for the most part, and the defenseman and attackman cannot cross the midfield line unless someone stays behind it for them. There needs to be 3 players behind the midfield line for each team for the whole game, or else there is a penalty. The midfielders can go wherever they want. The goal is now a 6 by 6 foot net held up by pipes, and sticks are now made from plastic, metal, or carbon fiber. This is an example of a lacrosse stick with a plastic head and carbon fiber shaft with nylon stringing. There are 3 types of lengths of shafts depending on your position. The shortest one is for middies and attackmen. The middle length is for goalies, and the longest length, which is 6 feet, is for defenders. Dodging and juking is now an art in lacrosse. The best players are usually the ones who have the best moves to get past their defender. Some of the common moves today are the split dodge, where you take a step one way, switch your stick hand, and go the other way and go past your defender. Another common move is a spin move. Just like in almost every other sport, you just simply spin in front of your defender and go past them. Next, I'm going to walk through the steps of passing and shooting, which are not as hard as people think. First, catching the ball. You put your hand all the way to the top of the stick and ease the ball in like an egg. When throwing the ball, you slide your hand to a little below the halfway point of the shaft. Then you bring your arms back, throw your hands forward, and snap your wrist and follow through by pointing your stick at the target. Shooting is very similar to throwing. The only difference is that you want to put your body into it to get more power. To do that, you have to use your abs and hips to get torque for that power. You also want to follow through all the way. Your stick should end up touching the ground. Doesn't this seem like a fun sport to play? This brings me to my next point, why lacrosse is growing so much and so fast. According to U.S. Lacrosse, from 2009 to 2014, 551 high schools added boys lacrosse to their program, and 556 schools added girls lacrosse to their program. That is a 27.8% boys growth rate and 31.2% girls growth rate. This is significant because no other sport had a growth rate above 10%. The reason so many schools are adding lacrosse to their program is because so many youth players are playing and saw a demand and opportunity to grow. This also carries over into the collegiate side. In 2014 alone, 39 colleges and universities added lacrosse to their school, including a good amount of Division I schools like Boston, Monmouth, and Richmond to go along with others. Lacrosse is going to keep growing and growing as more schools add the sport to their program and as more companies like Nike and Under Armour keep sponsoring and recognizing it. I honestly do not know what would be in opposition to not play lacrosse other than injury, but lacrosse is a lot safer than sports like football. Lacrosse helmets are actually safer than football helmets, even though you do not get as much in lacrosse. Also, over the past 8 years, there have been 2 helmets that have came out that upgraded itself significantly, meaning that the protection has gotten better and better, and players are getting less and less concussions. As better technology comes out, the helmets will just keep getting better, while football has not seen much difference in their helmets for a while. As you can see from the speech and video, lacrosse has come a long way since it was first started in the 17th century. Lacrosse is a fun sport to play and will just keep on growing. Lacrosse has the potential to be one of the most popular sports in a couple of years. Just imagine turning on ESPN at a primetime hour, and instead of watching a boring baseball game, you see a high-paced, exciting college lacrosse game on. Give it a couple years and this will be the norm. Lacrosse will take over the sports world.